You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Tuesday. We are entering, we're getting close to the big game, Michigan versus Ohio State. But, we didn't talk to Pro Football Focus last week at all. So today we've got Anthony Treash coming on, the college football expert over there at PFF. We're going to go back a little bit. We'll talk about Michigan, Penn State, and Michigan, Maryland, and then we'll start looking forward to Ohio State. Very excited to have you, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm excited to come back on. I mean, this is the game that, we've all been looking forward to. I mean, I have no rooting interest in either team, but I wanted this kind of matchup because it feels like it's been a minute since we've seen, the big game kind of have this type of big implications. I mean, on both sides there. I mean, winner gets in the Big Ten championship game, big college football playoff ramifications there. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
You know what? I'm excited too, because it's been a while since this game has been at home when it's had these ramifications. Every time it's had these ramifications, it's been in Columbus, 2006, 2016, 2018. Before we get really going here, today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. So anyway, and I am also your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, blah, blah, blah. You all know that. Anyway, let's get into it. So Michigan's played 2 games since we've last talked. And it kind of seems like, it really feels to me, and I want your thoughts on this, that Michigan's been kind of firing on all cylinders. And sometimes it maybe didn't look like it against Penn State. Because Penn State's defense has kind of done what Penn State's defense has done throughout the year and just kind of held people away from the end zone. But let's start with the offense, because I still thought it was impressive what the offense did against Penn State with the 21 points. Even more impressive what happened this last week. Certainly there were 14 points that weren't offensive in Michigan's 59 points against Maryland. But it really feels like the offense has really kind of found its own for Michigan. What have you seen so far those last 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been, I would say, close to perfect, even though, like you said, that game against Penn State, it was a little bit close there. I mean, that big play from Eric Hall, one of the biggest game-changing moments of that week for sure. I mean, that in that game particularly, the defense very much impressed me. I mean, that was kind of the performance I was expecting, just given what Penn State's shown this year. But Hassan Haskins, I thought he had a really good game against Penn State, and I think he had like 7 runs of 10 plus yards, which is a pretty high amount. No matter what workload you're going to get. So I was impressed with that too. And then against Maryland, of course, that was just it was a good old fashioned beatdown in all 3 phases there. And so we kind of got to that point where the 10 wins, it's already checked in there. Now it's all about executing against Ohio State. And, really the passing offense, I didn't really see much, over the last couple of games. I still think, Cade McNamara, clearly his best game came against Michigan State about a month ago. It's just against Ohio State, they're going to need that kind of day from Cade McNamara. He definitely did what he needed to do. I thought against Maryland, against Penn State, it was a little bit less than inspiring, that's for sure. We haven't seen that high volume of big time throws since Michigan State. We've seen a couple of turnover plays pop up. So, it all still kind of boils down to the quarterback position. That's the biggest concern with Michigan from my perspective. But, so far the run game and the defense, they've done exactly what they've kind of needed to do in moments that they're asked.
Well, I'd like you to kind of somewhat dispel something for me, because I saw something, and I think it was from some Ohio State channel on Twitter trying to say, all right, Michigan's got the number, I think they said number 10, number 8, whatever, the number 8 scoring defense. It's the number 10 overall defense in total defense. But look at here's the teams that they've played, and then listed like a list of the, where the other teams faced, where they ranked as far as in scoring offense. And it wasn't good, of course, because there aren't a ton of like high profile offenses in the Big Ten. Certainly Maryland had been one of them. Ohio State will be the toughest offense they've faced by far, but they were trying to do this to say that, hey, Michigan's defense is not actually that good. But they obviously grade out very, very high for you guys. I think they're up to number 2 in the country behind only Georgia. as far as your grade, cumulatively over 11 games. So can you dispel that notion for me a little bit, that this is not a defense, and what do you think also with that in mind, because we'll just go ahead and look at Ohio State now, that how much do you think that this defense is going to be tested? What's your level of faith that they'll be able to at least slow down Ohio State a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best defenses in college football. I think that might be some, fandom bias just a little bit from some of those folks from Ohio State. I mean, this defense is still a top 10 in points allowed for the year. All of college football, all 130 FBS teams. And like you said, just behind Georgia in team defensive grade this year. What they've done overall, it's just been nothing short of remarkable. So, no, this is definitely one of the best defenses in college football. And it's going to be a pretty big test for Ohio State. I mean, the thing that really impresses me with Michigan, and I've talked about it all year long, is what they can do from a pass rush perspective. They actually have the highest graded pass rush in college football, even above Georgia. Aiden Hutchinson, of course, and David Ajabo, his growth. Those two players on the edge have been significant for the Wolverines, and offenses have had to scheme because of those guys right there. Because pass rush matters at the Power 5 level. They can really disrupt the play, and we've seen them do that to a lot of quarterbacks throughout the course of the year. And what really kind of stands out to me is that they can get pressure on the quarterback without having to send an extra guy, right? I mean, when they're not blitzing, their first and pressure rate generated in the Power 5 above 40% of the time. And you look at this Ohio State offense, and we were talking about it a little bit before I jumped on, and just kind of the recency bias with Ohio State. I mean, they've been dominant the last two games, no doubt about it. Against Purdue, I thought that was a play calling clinic. Really from that coaching staff. I mean, it was a lot of quick schemed throws, get the ball in your playmaker's hands, make room and space to run after the catch, and they did that. Last week, I thought that was a spectacular all around, really dominant every single facet. The wide receiver specifically impressed me. But then you kind of go back to those games against Penn State, Nebraska. I mean, just under a month ago, they had their two least efficient offenses at games in any point of the season of 2021. I mean, it was really bad. And that's when the panic button was starting to get pressed a little bit with Ohio State. And now we're here thinking, oh, now they're number 2 in the country. Only they can beat Georgia, whatever. But, I think the biggest thing when I look at those two games against Penn State, Nebraska, where it was closer than expected finishes for the Buckeyes, in Nebraska specifically, they got pressure on CJ Stroud. They knocked him off his spot. They got him off rhythm, and they made him make a play. And most times when that happened, he did not make a play. He really struggled. I mean, he had a 46.0 passing grade when he was pressured, with no blitz there. They did that 16 times, and that was more than double than at any point in the season that he's had to experience that. And like I just mentioned a minute ago, Michigan has the capability of doing that. Now, it's not going to be easy against this kind of offensive line, just because I personally do think this is the best offensive line in college football, but that's not to say that they're not vulnerable. We've definitely seen that that game against Nebraska. So I think that's the biggest mismatch that I think could be in Michigan's favor and really kind of get them over that hump there. So, kind of going back to everything, I mean, Ohio State, they definitely have, I think, a ceiling as high as any offense in college football. If you had to, if I had to pick one offense and say you have to go win a game with this offense, I would pick Ohio State's, but they're definitely vulnerable. We've seen that multiple times throughout the season, and against quality level defenses like they're going to face this weekend too. So I think that's something very important to consider. I mean, this Michigan defense is for real. It's a different animal than what Michigan State has, and definitely what Purdue has. I mean, they're not going to be able to, I think, scheme away in some spots just because Michigan has significantly better athletes than Purdue does, right? And you're not going to be able to create those big plays just as easily. I think the windows are going to be smaller downfield. I mean, you're going to have trouble breaking away something underneath for a big gain. So it's going to be, supremely tough on them. And, I could really see this game going in any direction just because we like I said, we've seen some inconsistencies with both teams, but it's fixing to be a really interesting game. That's for sure.
I want to get more into Ohio State's offense versus the defenses they've played because I don't remember the numbers offhand, but I actually was scrolling through okay, what are the defenses that you guys ranked and that they've played? And I understand those defenses are going to fall in their rankings when they play Ohio State's offense, but none of them have been particularly high, like Minnesota is the number 4 total defense in the country, ahead of Michigan. But and that was the first game that they played. And they didn't play exactly that great against Minnesota. I mean, they still got almost 500 yards, but that's Ohio State not playing great. But the defenses that you guys have ranked, it's Michigan's far and away the best that they'll have faced. But let's get into that in just a moment. Before we do, I've got to tell you about a couple things. First off, this is it. The putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you are running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth with visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more. NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 27,000 businesses already use NetSuite, and right now, through the end of the year, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/lockedon. So head over to netsuite.com/lockedon for special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses, netsuite.com/lockedon. All right, college football fanatics, have you heard about Prize Picks? Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know you will too. Prize Picks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy. Prize Picks offers more college football props than anyone in the world and offers all the star players of the Power 5 as well as mid-major players you might not have ever even heard of. Prize Picks offers any prop that you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. So just make that deposit. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You can pick 2 to 5 players and over-under. On the projections, you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. Prize Picks also allows mixed sport entries. That means you can take the over on Patrick Mahomes and the under on LeBron in the same entry. Use the award-winning app on both the Apple App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So Prize Picks is also safe. It offers fast withdrawals. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. All right, we continue on with Anthony Treash from Pro Football Focus. So one of the things that kind of interests me in this, and this isn't me saying that Ohio State is not offensively incredible, because obviously you have them as the top dog in all of college football. But when I look through your list, let me see if I have your list still up here, because I might. I do actually. Looking at the defenses that Ohio State's played. So Michigan's ranked #2. I have to go all the way down to number 34, Tulsa, to see the highest ranked defense that Ohio State has faced. That in your rankings, 39 Penn State, 49 Michigan State. Obviously, they just eviscerated them, but nonetheless, Ohio State hasn't played, according to your rankings, a high-flying defense yet. So with that in mind, kind of what is your expectation as far as that's concerned? I know that we already kind of covered that, but does that become an issue in your eyes at all, that Ohio State really could struggle offensively against the Michigan defense?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I mean, it's like, especially in like, for example, in the beginning of the season when we're all trying to like figure out, who's really who, on either side of the ball. And you're looking at some of these small sample metrics. Maybe it's just a month in the season. You have 4 games. But then you have some team, Auburn was up there. I think they played Akron and then an FCS school, and they were high in every single statistic. It's like you almost have to throw them out for a little bit, just because everything's just getting propped up by the easier competition they're facing. So, I mean, you could say that in some aspects with Ohio State. That's, again, not to say if I had to pick any offense, that's definitely the offense I'm going with to win with. But they've definitely benefited from a pretty, easily and painless slate of defenses so far this season. Out of that group, we do have Tulsa, graded out higher, but a big thing with that is just, opposing competition with what they're facing in the group of 5. So Penn State's definitely #2 there. Penn State, they played them pretty closely. I thought they played pretty well from the coverage perspective. And, it took a big play on defense and a big long touchdown run to really put Ohio State over the hump there. So, looking at what they've done there, and I think Michigan State, I think they were a little bit more vulnerable. That's for sure. I think even to some of those metrics, you can kind of see it propped up against some of the easier offenses they've been able to face. So it all kind of goes into that. So I do think that this is, like I said, a different animal. Now, it's Michigan, Georgia. They're not on that level, but I do think they're definitely top 3 in college football. I think Wisconsin's up there too. I do think that this is a group that can really shut down, opposing offenses. And it kind of goes back to, that game against Michigan State. They just had like a handful of plays where it wasn't Michigan football this year. Specifically, Kenneth Walker, he had 3 20-plus yard touchdown runs for that game. You don't see that from this Michigan defense in any other game, right? And then, also too, some of the, what they've kind of trotted out there, I think some of that would have been just a little minor coaching mistakes from McDonald, the defensive coordinator. But, at the end of the day, you look at their, down for down success over the course of the whole season. This is a very special group, and much different than anything, Ohio State's really faced this season. So it's going to be tougher for them. CJ Stroud, I think he only faced like 5 pressured pockets last week. That's not going to be the case this week. Michigan's going to find a way to pressure him a little bit more than that. It's just all about, taking advantage of, the mistakes that CJ Stroud's prone to making when he is under duress, whether it's an overthrown ball or, so on. So, this is definitely going to be a significantly tougher test for the Buckeyes going up against this Michigan defense. And really in every single way, whether it's running the ball, pass protection, getting open from a wide receiver perspective. So that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing for them too is just, stay disciplined and make sure you don't let up any of those big plays that kind of burned them against Michigan State. Because that's ultimately what kind of killed them in the end.
Now, looking at the other side of the ball, what do you see as far as what Michigan should be able to do offensively? Cade McNamara, and I'm going to talk about this after you're off, but Cade McNamara said he's not particularly concerned about the Ohio State defense, that they're going to find ways, while looking at film this week, at how to take advantage of them and do their thing. It looks to me like their pass defense is susceptible. I think it's ranked 61st, according to you guys, in overall, which is not exactly what you would expect Ohio State secondary to be. They always send corners in the first round of the NFL draft. But is that it? They seem like they've been really good against the run most of the year, save for the first 2 games. But what do you think that matchup's going to be like for Michigan as far as trying to attack the Ohio State defense?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit easier than in years past. That's for sure. This defense is still kind of static. There was a big controversy, early on, especially after that loss to Oregon, and kind of flipped defensive play callers there, because they're just trotting out the same single high. They're not rotating coverages, and they've tweaked that a little bit, but for the most part, compared to an average of just a general FBS team, they're still doing the same thing more than anybody else in college football by a substantial margin. And that's what I think kind of Michigan can take advantage of. I think the biggest thing is, from a passing perspective, I think the ground game, I think they're going to be, what they can do, but you're going to need the passing attack too. And I think kind of incorporating the running backs in that, like we've seen recently, I think that's going to be a big thing for Michigan to do. But also at the same time is, you're probably going to have to pull some, I would say tricks out of the old sleeve, just because with Cade McNamara, he is what we've seen over the course of the whole season. He is pretty limited as a passer. He can be accurate underneath, but, as far as what he can do downfield against, Power 5 defenses is pretty minimal. Since that Michigan State game, he has as many turnover-worthy plays as big-time throws. He has 2 apiece. And that kind of encapsulates the kind of passer that he is. So whether it's with Cade McNamara, you bring JJ McCarthy in for some trickery there, they're going to have to do something to kind of spark the downfield passing attack, because they're going to need those big pass plays to really move the ball consistently on Ohio State and possibly match whatever offense that Ohio State's going to produce. Just because, as much as I hyped up Michigan's defense a minute ago, I don't think that they're going to shut out Ohio State. Ohio State's going to score some points. It's just all about making sure they don't score, 49 in the first half like Michigan State let them. And I don't think that's going to happen. So I do think Michigan's going to do what they can and limit them to, they can limit them to something in the low 30s. It's just going to be all on what the thing that I go back to and what I'm worried about is just the Michigan passing offense. Can you create those big plays, those deep throws? Because you're going to need at least a few of them. And, McNamara said, there's definitely ways to exploit them. As we've seen in Ohio State's pass coverage, it hasn't been, that best in America standard as it once was. Back in, a few years ago, they had these really special players, like you mentioned, these first-round cornerbacks playing the position where they could get away with, showing and playing the same thing. They just looked at the opposition and say, you know what we're going to do, but we have better athletes and better players out here than you. And we're still going to beat you with this plan. Now it's not so much. They're a little bit raw, a little inexperienced, and I think there is ways to kind of beat them with that way. So McNamara is right, but it goes back to Michigan. The ball's still in their court to really kind of execute, create that downfield passing spark. Just because at certain times and moments it really has not been there.
So 2 more for you. The first one is Michigan wins against Ohio State. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it goes back to the passing offense. So I would say 2 things. I mean, if Michigan wins, if they come out on top, I would expect the passing offense exceeds expectations and kind of has a performance like they had against Michigan State, if not a little bit more. But also, too, that pass rush tandem, Hutchinson and Ajaba, they're going to get after the quarterback and, take advantage of the mistakes CJ Stroud makes. So if Michigan comes out on top, pulls out the upset as 8-point dogs in Ann Arbor, I think those are going to be the 2 big reasons why.
All right. And then lastly, what do you actually expect to happen in the game? How do you see this game going in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the top, I could see it going in any direction just because we've seen both teams kind of have their highs and have their lows, and they're pretty severe in either direction. But, as far as my prediction for the game, I think Michigan's going to cover that spread. I mean, I'm going to take those 8 points just because, Michigan is a talented team defensively. And I think, with the flaws we've seen and vulnerabilities with Ohio State's offense, I could see this one being a lot closer than that. And so if I had to pick a winner, I mean, you have to probably pick Ohio State, but like I said, I would not be surprised if it's Michigan in the end. I think I'm a little bit more, I will say, I'm a little bit more confident in Michigan being able to pull out the victory than most people in media.
Because I like I said, I'm picking, I didn't say this to you, but so you wouldn't necessarily know, but I'm picking Ohio State to win, of course. However, unlike a lot of other years, this is one where I kind of feel like Michigan has an opportunity. And going into 2018, I picked Michigan to win because, I mean, everyone was really. It made sense on paper. And then at the same time, I was like, I don't feel good about it this week. Whereas this week, I actually kind of feel like Michigan's going to come to play. So anyway. All right, Anthony Treash, Pro Football Focus. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you.
It's Anthony Treash, Pro Football Focus. Always excited to have him on. Yeah, you got to feel like there's some optimism when you have a guy that's advanced analytics out there telling you, hey, there's a chance, right? Considering, how the last 2 times these 2 teams have played, how that's gone, all of that. You got to feel like, hey, there's a chance. So we'll see if it actually comes to fruition. I'm feeling increasingly better about it. It's crazy to me that that's the case, but I am. Anyhow, let's move on. Got to tell you a little something about betonline.ag because it's Thanksgiving. We all know what that means. It's football. And nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered for all of the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. So head over to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code LOCKEDON. It's not just football either. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. All right, so one other thing I have to tell you about that's near and dear to my heart. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing my favorite hoodie. It might be my second favorite hoodie now. No, I'm not going to. If you saw me, which you didn't probably, at Maryland, I was wearing my Michigan versus everybody hoodie. But this is the most comfortable hoodie. It's the coolest design. It's incredible. It's a Slippery Rock hoodie. That's the thing. It's all from Home Field Apparel. You've seen me almost every day these days wearing something from Home Field Apparel. Got my Bevo shirt that I wore yesterday, my LSU shirt, my Georgia shirt, my Florida shirt. I've got a couple Michigan ones. The Michigan ones are sweet. I just try not to wear them as much because I try to be impartial, right? And not just like putting myself out there as Michigan guy. Anyway, Here's the good news. Home Field will be running their Black Friday deal starting November 26th, which is this Friday, and running that through Cyber Monday, November 29th. All items will be 20% off for the duration of the sale, and no code is needed. Items are subject to sell out, and Home Field recommends ordering as early as possible so that our warehouse and shipping carriers have plenty of time to get the shirts to you for the holiday season. They're perfect gifts for any sports fan in your life or for yourself. You know what? We don't care. And you know what? Gift cards are available as well. We started adding stickers, including that awesome Tulane green wave. More to come, but ideally they'll have every school. Some of the long-awaited items are back in stock, including the Tri-Blend, Gray Crudex, and Oatmeal hoodies. But here's the thing. They've got 18 curated Michigan pieces that are incredible. You can find stuff. You'll probably be like me if you haven't looked at their collection, and you'll find stuff from other schools, and you're like, you know what? I don't even like that school, but I'm going to buy a shirt because it's that awesome of a design. And guess what? They're the most comfortable out there. So check it out, homefieldapparel.com. Don't need a promo code during that time, but Locked On Wolverines if you want to save 15% before not Cyber Monday, but Black Friday. All right, let's finish her out. Locked On Wolverines podcast. So obviously there's some consternation with some certain things. Like I mentioned the thing at the top with Anthony and the Pro Football Focus thing. I did a more thorough breakdown on X's and O's today with Jake Butt. That should be up as we speak on my YouTube channel, my personal YouTube channel. But like the difference between the defenses that Ohio State's faced and the offenses Michigan's faced, and how it's kind of like Spider-Man, it's pointing at Spider-Man. You know, it's really not that different in that light. But Cade McNamara came out and said on the Inside Michigan Football show that he is not concerned about the Ohio State defense. And my friend Alex Gleitman, I think he's over at Buckeye Scoop now. I used to work with him at 24/7 Sports. Is like, oh, these Michigan guys every year. To me, I'm kind of like, what do you want him to say, right? Like, this is the type of stuff that they're going to say, right? This is the type of stuff that you want Michigan guys to say because you don't want them to be putting their tail between their legs. I understand Ohio State guys are going to be like, oh, yeah, here they are talking. I mean, it's not even really talking. It's just having confidence in yourself, you know? To say, like, we're more concerned about Michigan. I mean, Alex got a little bit flambéed by even Buckeye people being like, what else was he supposed to say, man? You know? But that's the type of thing between him and what Aiden said to John Jansen as well. Like, we're not scared of them. And we're not going into this being like, oh, this is Ohio State. We're scared. Like, you know, Cade McNamara saying we need to play Michigan football. We're less concerned with Ohio State playing Ohio State football, but if we play what Michigan is capable of, then we can win this game. Aiden Hutchinson saying we're going to put it all on the line. If we win, then awesome. Then it'll suck if we lose, but we're not going to go out there and have it be a situation where we didn't put it all out there. That's exactly the type of attitude they need to have. And that's, I think, partially why my confidence is growing, because in 2018, there was some loafing going on, mixed with everything else that was happening. So, I'm really excited to see how this ends up going in that light. Because I think that there is certainly a chance that Michigan comes out really fired up. Now, you don't want to get too high, but even Aiden was saying, you got to keep the emotions in check, take things play by play. If they can honestly do that, like, because they're going to get burnt a few times, right? But if they can, unlike the Kenneth Walker situation, when they got burnt, just over and over again late in the game, if they can limit it and say, all right, we got burnt once, let's batten the hatches, that gives you a shot. That gives you a chance. So anyway, that's all I got today. We'll be back Wednesday. No surprise, anything. We're just talking about the game. We've got some players. We've got Aiden Hutchinson again tonight, a couple other players. So certainly it'll be more of that, the same. We will have a Thanksgiving mailbag episode. I don't have dinner with the family until late, so we'll probably try to still knock it out early so that you can maybe get to your Thanksgiving and listen or watch or whatever you want. And then Friday will be the Jake Butt preview. Although we did a lot of previewing on X's and O's. Anyway, that'll do it for us today. Thank you for watching and or listening. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.